Alright, so it has quite literally been months since I've uploaded a full self-driving video, but here we are. We're on version 12.3 and we are giving full self-driving a go. I'm going to turn it on here. We're heading to Target. This is the route here. We're kind of avoiding 76 here, and right off the bat we are taking Lincoln Drive in just outside of Philadelphia, so we're kind of like in the West Philly area. And Lincoln Drive is one of the absolute craziest roads ever. It's so windy, it's so tight, it's so narrow. So it's going to be very interesting to see how full self-driving handles Lincoln Drive. Now, personally, I've never tried full self-driving on Lincoln Drive. It's just something that I don't think that on previous versions it would be able to handle. But here we are giving it a go. Now, it actually looks like it's taking us around Lincoln Drive. It looks like it's rerouted us just a little bit. So we're not actually going to be driving fully on Lincoln Drive. The car is driving super slow and I'm getting passed on the right side here. See, so we're almost actually coming to a stop. No, 25 miles an hour. So this is like one of the reasons why I kind of stopped making full self-driving videos, is because there's so much growing pains with the software. Like right now, I know that I could go and increase my speed. We've got people ripping up on the right side here. People in Lincoln Drive drive absolutely absurd. But with full self-driving, I just feel like I'm babysitting the car. I feel like at all times I have to be cautious of what's going on, and I can't just drive and get to where I have to go. So that's really been one of the reasons why I've slowed down on making the full self-driving videos, and really why I haven't been doing it at all. But I will say that last night I got in the car, I was heading home from a restaurant, heading home from dinner, and I tried full self-driving all the way home, and I was blown away. I was so impressed by how the software was able to just literally get me from point A to point B without me having to intervene at all. And really, there were some tough scenarios where I did not think that full self-driving would be able to handle what was happening, but it ended up doing really well, going under a tunnel, doing stuff like that, also making some difficult left-hand turns and whatnot. So I really want to get back into uploading these full self-driving videos here, just because the software is now at a point where I feel like I can use it on the daily without actually getting frustrated. So with older versions, I would try to use full self-driving to like drive down the shore. I would try to use it to drive through the city. It actually is slowing down for that speed cushion. That's pretty, let's see, is it going to slow down for this one too? Wow. I wonder what it sees in the software to know that there's a speed bump there. There's really not even any signage. This one is going to be very interesting here as well. We've got a speed cushion. Look at that. That is super impressive. I'm just waiting for it to now be able to dodge potholes. That's going to be the next great feature. Okay, so that's awesome. Being able to slow down for speed cushions is great. Okay, so also another reason, obviously, jumping back into the full self-driving videos is because they've made it less expensive. So now the software is $99 to subscribe every month, and then it's actually $8,000 if you want to buy it outright for your vehicle, which I think is a good idea. It's going to get more people into full self-driving. It'll get more people using it. Tesla can collect more data, and wow, look at that. Every single speed bump it was able to slow down. That is awesome. This is always such a nightmare of an area to try to drive through with these speed cushions, so it's great that it was able to, it's able to see them. This one, it didn't slow down like the others. It kind of just kept chugging through. Also, right now, the speed limit is 25. We were kind of going a little bit under the speed limit at 20 miles an hour. I've got it bumped up to 35 just to kind of get us through here. All right, so we're making our first left-hand turn here. This one should be pretty easy because we have a light, so it just knows to kind of keep going through. The biggest thing I would say is that the car just feels a lot more confident making these turns. I know that sometimes when making these left-hand turns, the wheel, like the steering wheel, would jerk like crazy, kind of, maneuvering left and right, trying to shimmy around, but now it turns with such confidence, which is awesome. Now, the rest of this drive is basically following curvy roads. It's, going to be stopping at stop signs, stopping at red lights, things like that. City driving can sometimes get pretty crazy. We're not necessarily in the city right now. We're just on the outskirts, but still, there are going to be some times where the car is going to have to make some different decisions here. So yeah, using full self-driving on version 11, I know that every single time we kind of get this new version upgrade, it's always a pretty significant upgrade. I really liked that switch to version 11. I thought that it was better, but now that we've gotten to this point, version 12, it just seems like Tesla, even themselves, have been marketing and pushing it so much more than previous versions of full self-driving. They've been tweeting about it more. They've been posting about it on Instagram. They've actually changed the name now to Full Self-Driving Supervised. This is a really nice, natural stop here at this red light as well. This road, pretty much all the way through, should just be 2 lanes here. So we've got the opportunity to move back and forth if we need to. But yeah, so for the longest time, even being subscribed to full self-driving, and then on my previous car that was totaled, I was rear-ended, I actually bought it outright on the vehicle. A lot of the times I wasn't actually using full self-driving, I was using just regular autopilot. My reason behind that was because I just felt like full self-driving was a little bit too strict. Like when I was using full self-driving, if I would just go and look at my passenger, if I would say look at the screen and try to change the song or put an address into the maps, it would just kick me out. It would, you know, disable it for the rest of the drive, which was always super annoying. So I found that autopilot was a lot more useful to use on the daily. The one thing that really, I think, needs to be worked on is the speed control. I would love if it could analyze, like, the car that's in front of you. That was a nice, confident little turn there. It was kind of up over hill. We had somebody making a left. And on previous versions of full self-driving, the car wouldn't be confident and it would kind of stutter and maybe hit the brakes a little bit because it might think that that car is making a left. But now I feel like it's really doing a good job of anticipating, like, human movements. And kind of understanding what might happen. But I think that my biggest thing right now is like the speed that the car drives at. You know, I don't necessarily need my car to be speeding down the road at the top speed, but I think that my biggest gripe is just when I'm in the left-hand lane here, for example, and I've got people passing me on the right. Like, they're behind me, they pass me on the right, and then they go and they get in front of me. You know, I guess there's a lot of people on the road that would think that that's an ego thing, but personally, for me, that was a really natural lane change right there. Like, even as the car, look at this little kid here, even though the car in front of me was still close to the vehicle, it anticipated that the car was going to continue to move forward, and it moved right into that space. So yeah, the speed, I think, really is just still like an issue. Like, you know, right now we're doing 35, or the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. I have it set to 55 max. I mean, really, there's a lot of people. That's a nice stop. I think that was respectable, and it wasn't too hard on the brakes either. Whenever I'm in the driver's seat and full self-driving is driving, I feel like I'm a passenger, so if the car does a sudden movement, like it slams on the brakes, I kind of react like a passenger. So if I had a passenger and slammed on the brakes, they wouldn't know I'm slamming on the brakes, so they would kind of be thrown forwards. And that's how you feel when the car is driving. You feel like you're a passenger yourself. So that was a really nice, smooth stop, despite the yellow light coming up at the last second. So yeah, back to the speed. You know, I have it set to a maximum of 55 miles an hour right now, and it seems like the car is just kind of reading the scenario that you're in and setting the speed accordingly from there. Like, it hasn't even touched my maximum of 55 miles an hour, which is fine. You know, this is only a 35 mile an hour zone. I'm not trying to speed through here at 55, but I've got it high enough just so that it can continue to try to keep up with traffic. Like right here, it does seem like a pretty wide open area, so I'm not certain why it wouldn't try to pump that speed up a little bit. And here, I don't know why it would get into the left-hand lane. I didn't see if it, usually it has some text up here that'll describe what it's trying to do. But I'd rather be in the right lane where there's nobody. I'd be at the front so the car can just accelerate forwards as fast as it wants. And it didn't really know that this guy here in the Honda to my left was making a left-hand turn, so it would have been getting behind 2 cars. And I also am making a right, first of all, so there's no reason why it should be getting in the left-hand lane for an upcoming right-hand turn. But that's also in 5.8 miles. So I don't know why I made that adjustment, but hey. An issue that I frequently had on old versions of full self-driving is the car would just kind of drive directly past where I wanted it to go. Like, if it had an exit, it would just keep driving, say, right past the exit and then have to turn around. So I wonder if that's an issue that we'll encounter here on version 12 of full self-driving. It's really just cool to see how fast this software is continuing to improve. And again, you know, this type of drive here on like a Sunday night where I'm running the Target to just pick up supplies, being able to jump in the car and let it drive for you is awesome. It's actually Saturday, not Sunday. This is actually like a fairly easy drive as well. On previous versions of full self-driving, you know, despite kind of having to go back there on Lincoln Drive, full self-driving would have been able to handle this really great. Even if you were using Navigate on autopilot, would have been able to handle it well as well. Just because you're kind of driving straight with some slight turns and you're making those stops at red lights. I mean, we're on a pretty decent straightaway here. You know, the maximum speed it's setting for me is 47. Again, I don't know how it's taking in the top speed to account. Like, does it know that I'm doing 35, or does it know the speed limit is 35, and even though it's now doing 10 miles over the speed limit, it's like, hey, I really don't want you to go any faster. I also love with like newer versions of full self-driving, you know, I'm kind of playing catch up here just because I haven't uploaded in a while. I like how with newer versions of full self-driving, it actually reads your eyes. Of course, it's annoying because if you go and you look at the screen, it's going to, you know, kick you out of full self-driving if you look off the road for too long. But what's great about it is if you do pay attention, you don't have to actually maneuver the wheel. You know, for me, like with full self-driving, I guess now they're not really using the term beta, but with full self-driving, when you would be using it, you really are having to monitor the car the entire time and make sure that at every single moment it's not going to crash. I mean, this is still very brand new software. You know, not every car on the road is able to do what the, you know, Tesla's fleet is able to do. But kind of lost my train of thought here. But I just feel like now, like with full self-driving, I don't have to always be so attentive. Like I can actually just sit here and enjoy the ride. Like the reason I want my car to fully drive itself is because I don't want to drive. I don't want to have to be paying attention, right? Like my goal with the full self-driving car is to where I can be on my phone while it's driving the entire time and not have to worry. I want to be able to jump in my car and immediately be able to respond to emails, respond to text messages, do all of that stuff. You know, without the car kicking me out of full self-driving, without the car beeping at me, and with it still being safe. And really, so far to this point, I mean, I feel very confident with full self-driving, and you know, the pace that it's been making. I guess really the only time that full self-driving and just autopilot in general really skeeves me out is construction zones. I know sometimes, like late at night, ripping down the highway, when you go to, you know, come around a corner, there might be a bunch of cones in the middle of the road and you need to act, you know, very quickly to make that change, to get over away from the cones. And like, how would full self-driving react to something like that, you know? We do actually have a construction zone coming up here. I was actually driving here the other day and it was jammed with traffic. So it looks like the left lane is closed. This middle lane here should be fine, but we might get some people merging over if this lane starts to fill up with traffic behind us, which it doesn't look like there's really anybody behind us. But that would be interesting to see how the car would handle merges. Again, the confidence level for this car in full self-driving is just off the charts, which is great to see. All right, so we finally have the green light, and we do have some cars coming up here on the left, although I think that they're going to merge over before they even get to my car, so not going to be able to see how that works. Now, we are losing a little bit of light here. It's 7:30. The sun in Philadelphia sets at 7:52, so we're about 20 minutes away from sunset. The car's got the blinker on. That was interesting that it put the blinker on to kind of merge over into the middle as both lanes merged, so would have been cool to see how the car would kind of maneuver a zipper where, you know, two lanes would come together, but maybe another day when we get a busier set of traffic to test on. But yeah, so the sun is setting here, right? And full self-driving at nighttime still works as good as it does during the daytime. That drive that I mentioned that kind of like had reinvigorated me to make these full self-driving videos was last night when I was coming home from dinner. So that was at nighttime, and you know, the car handled really well driving at night through the city too, making some pretty hard left turns. So we'll definitely have to get back into making these full self-driving videos. I do a lot of driving just with work, so I drive around to different homes. I do real estate photography, so I'm bouncing around between 4 or 5 homes a day. So being able to like record my drives in between homes, especially on maybe more complicated routes, would definitely be a good use of time, but also just a way to kind of continue to share more content here on the channel. So we're about 8 minutes away, and you know the car has really been chugging along status quo. Again, despite this being a construction zone, there's really not a lot of different maneuvers the car would have to make. It'd be interesting if there was like no lines on the road. It would be interesting if you know, the route was really zigzaggy, but this seemed to be fairly easy and handled that construction zone with absolutely no issues. It would also be interesting to see how it handles like a flagger, so somebody with a stop sign or a slow sign, and you know, kind of going over to the opposite lane of traffic. So that'll all be stuff again that we'll encounter over the next weeks as we continue to use and try full self-driving, and obviously, you know, monitor the different updates and changes. So I think the biggest really challenge as we get here is when we actually get closer to target, right? So like we're gonna have to make some turns here. We're gonna have to actually go into the parking lot, and like that's really where, you know, full self-driving hits its limit. It's great on these roads right now. It's perfect for going through red lights, stop signs, construction zones, as you just saw. But like once you get into an actual parking lot, it's not like the car is just going to go and find a parking spot for you. It's one of those things where when you get there, you're going to have to like take control. I would love to try like a full drive across the entire country on nothing but full self-driving, and like give it a try to see like how the car reacts to everything that you would hit, and like how much of a percentage of that drive is actually done on full self-driving. The only thing is, like, once you get into those shopping centers and parking lots where you actually go and like you know, have to charge your car, for example, or you stop for some food, those are sometimes we're gonna have to actually take over. So it wouldn't be like a full self-driving you know, route across the country. You'd of course have to stop. Now for those wondering out there, my car is running hardware 3 for full self-driving. You know, I had my car totaled, gosh, it was around this time last year. So back in 2023, like between February, March time, I was rear-ended down in South Jersey, and I needed to get a brand new car. So from there, the Model Y was like my number one choice. I had a Model Y Performance, and I literally ordered the same exact car. Got another black Model Y Performance because I liked it so much. Now there were some great upgrades in there, like it has like door felt now, had the AMD Ryzen chip. You know, I mean, obviously the door felt is like such a small little upgrade, but there's these things that really do make the car better from my first vehicle that I had. But I think I missed delivery by like a couple hundred vehicles of hardware 4. And I remember there was a lot of speculation around that time of when hardware 4 would be shipped on specific VIN numbers. And I was kind of doing the tracking, and I compared my VIN with what everybody was saying was like the cutoff for hardware 4 being installed on Model Ys. And I was pumped because mine was after that cutoff. So I thought that I was going to get hardware 4, but they changed my VIN at the last minute and I got a different car. And actually that change in VIN, I didn't even know until I got to the delivery center, did my delivery acceptance. I walked right up to the car. I immediately looked at the cameras to try and see if I had that red glow in my cameras, and I unfortunately didn't. So no hardware 4 for me, and unfortunately there's not going to be an option to retrofit to hardware 4, but you know, it is what it is. So again, like right now, we're on a pretty decent straightaway. The speed limit still is 35, but as you can see, there's some vehicles driving much faster than 35. So I wonder what the car's thought process is for not going up to the maximum speed that I set of 55. Like, why is it choosing 46 to go, right? I've got cars stacked up behind me. Cars are passing me on the left here. This is a fairly larger scale, like business highway almost, so you'd expect that the car would drive a little bit faster than say 45. Like, let's see, if I do 60, no, so it's not like a 10 mile per hour threshold. It just wants to do 45. No matter how much I jack that speed up, I can do 75, and it is just going to continue to chug along at 45. I mean, look, I get it, it's safe. It's the responsible thing to do. That was pretty good there. It slowed down just a little bit for this person standing out in the middle of nowhere. I've got no idea what she was doing. It didn't veer, it didn't do anything, but it just kind of precautiously hit the brakes, and it was it wasn't actually probably a brake tap. It was more so a slowdown on the accelerator, so you had a little bit of regen there. And it's nice to see that it was like preparing for that woman to just run out in the middle. But again, it didn't take these huge precautionary steps of like putting me in the other lane, slamming on the brakes. I feel like old versions of full self-driving were so timid to where it might actually do something like that, just because it would be afraid that it would potentially hit, you know, a person or a car that might be turning. Now, something I feel, and I don't know if it's maybe just the way that I drive, but I feel like the car is kind of far to the right. Like, I feel like if I was driving, I'd be just a little bit more to the left. Now, obviously, it sees the curb over there. It's building the curb up on the full self-driving visualization, and it sees the lines over here, so it's putting me in the middle of those two things, but still, I feel like it's a little bit further to the right than at least I would be. Fun fact, this Toyota right here is the first spot that I test drove a Tesla. I was looking to purchase a used Model S back in 2017, 2018. Now we have a green arrow here. The car is going to kind of come to a stop, but it has a green arrow so it can keep going. There you are. I've noticed that the car does not pick up on no turn on red signs. It has continued to do no turn on red. It made a nice move over to the left lane almost immediately there. That was nice. That was nice and natural. You know, old versions of full self-driving, it might start driving straight and then be like, oh, now I got to make a left-hand turn. But it wasted no time getting me over, which is nice because, I mean, we have this turn coming up like right here. Nice slowdown. I feel like it's coming to a stop or a slow sooner than I probably would. Ooh, all right. So that's interesting. It noticed the yellow arrow and came to a stop probably sooner than I would. I mean, I probably would have gone through that yellow arrow just because I had speed. The car decided not to. That was a nice left-hand turn. It's almost like it was anticipating, like it knew, like, hey, there's no more cars coming, and once that car goes, we can start moving. And it started moving as the car was passing through the intersection, which, again, is such a natural and fluid movement. All right, now we've got a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Let's bump it up here a little bit, 30. But it doesn't want to. It'll do 25. I swear, it's just kind of has a mind of its own with the speed. And I also don't, within autopilot settings, I also do not, whatever. I do not have it set to, I don't have it set to set speed automatically. That was a good move. It was in a right-hand only lane, so on previous versions of full self-driving, I noticed it would sometimes just go straight through the turning lane and then make a left. Yo. Oh, never mind. I think that this Target's going through a rebrand. I saw the logo taken off the front of the Target. See, I feel like I'm so close to that curb. I mean, I've got enough room. I'm so afraid of curbing the wheels. Okay, so we're coming up here. It says autopilot navigation complete. Press accelerator to resume. So, like, that's the end of full self-driving. Now, it's up to me. I mean, look, it brought me right here. Target is right here. I've got to now go find a parking spot, and that's pretty good. No having to take over. Very easy drive. I'm very impressed with the current state of full self-driving. This, I think, was like a softball. I think I was just like giving full self-driving one of the easiest possible drives it could do. But this is a great place to start, and now it's just going to be time for some more intricate drives through the city. So thanks, guys, so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts on full self-driving down below in the comments, and I'll talk to you later.